Good morning, everyone. I'm Gene Sullivan.
And I'm Tony Crockett. Good morning, Gene.
Good morning. We've got a lot of great topics to cover here on the show today. First of all, we're going to be talking about a man who is in a homeowners association, a former Marine who's in a fight over displaying the American flag. That takes place about every couple years, doesn't it, Tony?
Well, at least every couple of years there's a fight over the flag.
You think that this was one discussion and one event that is finally been put to bed, but no. It keeps coming up, and we're going to talk about this one too, and some of the particulars around this case. We also want to talk about a case where there may be homeowners in associations who are unfairly taxed, more so than those who live in single-family homes.
Property taxes.
Unfairly taxed. We'll talk about that situation. We also have a situation, too, where we're going to ask the question, can board members be compensated for their service to the association?
That question comes up frequently, doesn't it?
And if they can, should they? I mean, that's even another one.
Sure.
And then we've even got another story about the real ugly side of HOA living. And I entitled it, Just Because You're an Adult Doesn't Mean You Act Like One. And we've got that and so much more. Your comments, too, please give us a call. The station number here, 651-289-4488. Well, it is time for us to begin with our first segment, Property Management in the News. And today, the issue is in the Marine in a fight over displaying the flag. And this is from Houston, Texas. It says a retired Marine is taking on his homeowners association after he was ordered to take down the American flag. It's something he's been doing for years, and the Cypress man says it's against the law for the HOA to stop him from displaying the flag. It's happening in the Lakeland Village community off of Highway 290 and Fry Road. Mike Marola is the name of the former drill sergeant and homeowner at Lakeland, and he says he changes his flag twice a year to keep it from getting worn. Something he takes very seriously, but it's a tradition that his homeowners association says he needs to stop. Marola said he served in the Marines from 1969 to 77. He goes on, it says, but that doesn't mean he's finished defending what he says is one of his rights to fly the American flag. It's on a 20-foot pole and neatly landscaped in his backyard around his home. Seems to me that people all over the country that are trying to show their patriotism and things by flying a flag on a flagpole are being questioned and having to go through a fight to do so, Marola said. Now, the Lakeland Village Community Association, in this article, I don't like the way this guy writes it, Tony. He says, the writer of the article says that the association is suing him for displaying his patriotism.
I know. I noticed that, too. It's not even in quotes. So they're not quoting. That's the writer of the article.
I had to stop and make that because I didn't want anybody to think that that's what we're thinking here. I mean, that's just not true.
It's pretty inflammatory language.
It is. But anyway, this article goes on to say that the association has filed a suit against Marola after he refused to remove the flagpole, saying his violations, and this is a quote, are a detriment to Lakeland Village and run afoul of community-wide standards therein, causing imminent harm and irreparable injury to them. Whoa.
Those are fighting words, too, aren't they?
Can't anybody ever speak anymore without hyperbole anymore,
I don't think so.
It doesn't appear, does it?
No, it doesn't.
Anyway, even during a face-to-face meeting, the Marine said he was told by someone on the board that even the wind noise was a problem. The wind noise of the flag, flapping in the wind. His direct neighbors don't seem to mind. I love it. It's beautiful. It adds to the neighborhood. You go for a walk, you come around the corner, and it's flying. It's pretty, said neighbor Beth Stepanek. Now, Marola and his attorney are contending that he has a right to fly the flag under the Freedom to Display the American Flag Act of 2005, which says in part that a residential real estate management association may not adopt or enforce any policy or enter into any agreement that would restrict or prevent a member of the association from displaying the flag. So at this point, Merola's legal fees are racking up, and he plans to stand his ground in court. This is for those that are serving now, those of us that have served before, and for the people that have paid the ultimate price. That's why I'm flying the flag, said Merola. Lakeland Homeowners Association tells us Merola can fly a flag. It's just that it has to be mounted on the front of the home and not in the back where he has it. In the lawsuit, the HOA is asking a judge to grant them the ability to levy a 200-day fine.
$200 a day.
$200 a day fine, yes. And 18% interest if it stays unpaid. As of now, no court date has been set.
Well, man, isn't this typical of the stories we find in the news, Gene? Each side has an argument that's not entirely supported. Each side cites legislation or governing documents, and they're not entirely covering the issue when they start citing documents. There's always something left out on both sides.
Yeah, let's just take the first example, the story itself. Everything seems reasonable. The man has a 20-foot pole. It's not something that is huge. We're not talking about something that's like a flag flying above Perkins restaurants or anything. It's neatly landscaped. We even have a quote in there from a next-door neighbor who says, "I like it." So it appears that there's probably some folks that are in the immediate neighborhood that seem that everything's okay.
Except we don't know for sure because we never hear the whole story. So, but it does not. The story does not say. The article does not say that the board of directors received complaints about the flag. Does it?
You would think that if that were what the board of directors were hanging their hat on, they would have mentioned
that. They would say that.
Yeah, they would have said, we've got, it's 100 people living here, and 80 have said, we don't like it.
They don't like it. That's right. It's to support their argument. So the article also states that this Marine has been flying this flag for many years. So my first question is, why did the board decide at this point to restrict him, to tell him that you can't do it anymore? Why did they decide now is the time to enforce whatever rule it is they have?
One of the things that comes to mind that we've seen quite often is that you end up in a homeowners association, unfortunately, people don't stay friends and neighbors.
Yeah.
People build up and develop enemies. And now I got to believe that there's someone who...
Or animosity.
Yep, that's right. And someone new gets on the board, and all of a sudden their job is to run a clean house, and they're upset with either Mr. Merola or a friend of Mr. Merola.
Sometimes it's a personal issue, isn't it?
Yeah.
They're upset about the homeowner for another reason, and they decide this is how I'm gonna slap him, is I'm going to enforce this rule. On the other hand, there's also a frustration for boards when rules have not been enforced for years and years. And then all of a sudden someone else comes along and says, hey, I want to plant a 20-foot flagpole in my backyard because Mike Merola has one. Why can't I? Then you have more people stepping up that want to violate this rule. And the board says, at some point we have to start enforcing what we have in place.
Yes, but, when something like that is done, I think we would recommend all the time with someone that you would make sure that you take a look at your rules and regulations and you say, these look sound. Pass them out once again to homeowners and say, you know what, we have not been following them, but here they are once again, and this is what we're going to begin to follow from here on out.
Or how about this?
And give a date.
How about, here's the rules. We want to remind everyone, what do you think about them?
Yeah.
What's your feedback from the Homeowners Association? If we have some people that are expressing opinions contrary to these rules, maybe these rules aren't needed anymore. Maybe they're not appropriate anymore. let's form a committee. Let's review
Yeah.
our rules and regs. I mean, let's get the homeowners involved.
But of course, none of those things are,
No.
or what the board talked about. Can you, let me read this again. This is what the board said about why this is such a bad thing to have this flag flying. They said that Mr. Merola's flag was a detriment to Lakeland Village and runs afoul of the community-wide standard, causing imminent harm and irreparable injury.
That's right.
That
Them's fighting
is,
words. I'm sorry.
It's more than fighting words. That is where. What are they talking about? Where is this? Where is the harm?
Where's the imminent harm and irreparable injury? And not only that, they slap a fine on him of $200 a day at 18% interest. I actually took over a homeowners association many years ago, where they had passed a rule: no more rentals in this association as of, say, September 1st, 1998. Going forward, no more rentals. Well, there was a property owner in the association who had a rental before September 1st, 1998, and he bought another unit after September 1st and put it up as a rental because he knew that the association had passed an invalid rule. They were contradicting their governing documents by saying you can't have rentals. So this fight had been going on for years, and they had been fining him $200 a month. For about 6 years, which I thought was insane.
Yeah, the part that I think that where the board here loses credibility is when they make statements like that.
Yes,
and then secondly, wanting to follow it up with something where the consequences don't fit the violation.
There you go.
They
That's
don't
right. That's
fit
right.
the violation.
And I have to say, based on what we know, the board threw the first salvo in this fight, didn't they?
Yeah, they did, and and I guess on the board side, you don't have a homeowner who first goes to the board to ask for permission for a variance or to see if
that's
something
very
is okay.
common that people don't ask
Oh
for
man,
prior approval.
Truth be known, that happens more times than it doesn't.
Yeah.
And then
it's a serious issue for board.
It is, and and I've got to say to the defense of a lot of boards too, what happens when a homeowner finally decides to do something, they remember when they do remember that they need to tell
permission?
them.
Yeah,
it's a day before the contractor gets there.
Yeah,
or 2 hours before.
Yeah,
and then they say, "Well, can you hurry up and get me an answer?"
Get me. Yeah, that's right.
I mean, it is.
So Mr. Merola, let's say, didn't ask for prior approval, but he has been flying this flag for 6 years. Is he right in quoting the Freedom to Display the American Flag Act of 2005 that the Real Estate Management Association cannot restrict or prevent him from flying that flag?
That is true. That is the act, and that is what it says, is that you cannot restrict. Those were exact words.
Or
it
prevent.
Says, to prevent a member from the association from displaying the flag. But the homeowner association said, we're not preventing him from flying the flag.
Right.
We're just saying you can't fly it there.
Right.
But
I want to point out that this act, what Mike Merola is quoting, is only the first part of this act.
Yes.
Okay.
And
that does say you can't restrict.
Right. And you mentioned that at the very beginning, that a lot of times people only bring up a part of the situation. It's the sin of omission.
Yeah, that's
right.
right.
And the part that they were omitting was the very next words, which deals with...
The next paragraph.
Yes, which deals
of
with
the act.
Limitations.
Yes.
And in there, it says that there are limitations. Number one, people can display the flag, but they cannot display it if they're displayed in a manner that is that would be considered sacrilegious and unpatriotic, where they're
they have to do it in accordance with rule and custom,
which
we know means at night it has to be lit, that you're not supposed to fly a flag that's tattered and worn.
Exactly.
There's rules and customs like that. So that's one of the restrictions.
And of course he's doing that part. That's
he's complying with that.
But the second part is that that there can be a reasonable restriction pertaining to the time, place, and manner of displaying the flag.
To protect a substantial interest of the condominium association, cooperative association, or residential management association. So they're saying the association can apply some restrictions.
Yes.
Reasonable restrictions.
Mm-hmm.
And the association's saying, fly it in your front yard, not in your backyard. Again, I got to say, why did they choose this time 6 years later to enforce this?
Mm-hmm.
But neither side is really stating a valid argument.
No, but it is valid. If I think of another very important Supreme Court case back with I think it was Oliver Wendell Holmes. It was on free speech. About yelling fire, and you've heard of that.
Yes, of course.
Yelling fire in the theater, and he said everybody has free speech, but not freedom of speech anywhere at any time.
There you go.
And he said, you can't yell fire in the middle of a performance of a theater,
right?
And disrupt people. And so so there can be restrictions. And so that's the thing here. Mr. Merola does have freedoms, but there are some limits. The board has certainly outlined what those are. I think that they're reasonable in that part. But they're being unreasonable in what they want to do in fining him.
Yeah.
Mr. Merola is being unreasonable in not recognizing or wanting to work with them either.
So what should have happened here, Gene? What do we think should have happened in this situation?
In the best of worlds, the homeowner, Mr. Merola, would have just placed his flag in the front of his yard instead of the back.
There would abided by the rules in the first place.
There would have been no issue if before he went ahead and invested and did the landscaping and put the pole in the backyard. He should have gone to the board and asked for permission in writing. And once he had received that, then he's good to go and can move forward.
And we're saying that because most governing documents require that. Also, though, the fact that he had violated the rule, couldn't someone from the board have talked to him or brought him into a board meeting to discuss the issue? Couldn't there not have been some dialogue before they started throwing bombs at each other? Verbal bombs?
You would think so, but again, of course, with this article, again, that's a question we don't know, do we?
Oh, there you go. That's true.
There's things we just don't know from both sides.
True.
Anyway, that is property management in the news, and that today has been brought to you by Pest Control Services. When you need to get rid of unwanted pests in your home or rental property, call Greg Keener at 952-894-9748. He's responsive, professional, and a proud member of Angie's List. Give Greg a call at Pest Control Services. Tell Greg you heard his ad here on Where You Live. Well, we're going to take a break, and when we get back, we're going to talk about a situation where homeowners in an association may be unfairly taxed from their single-family counterparts. More on this after these messages.